Far out in the uncharted backwaters of the unfashionable end of the western spiral arm of the galaxy lies a small, unregarded yellow sun. Orbiting this at a distance of roughly 92 million miles is an utterly insignificant little blue-green planet whose ape-descended life forms are so amazingly primitive that two of them still think doing a podcast called Digital Watches are a pretty neat idea is a pretty neat idea. These podcasters have, or rather had, a problem, which was this. Actually, this is the solution.
This started with a man named Arthur. A rather ordinary man who lived a whale of a tale. This tale found two men who thought it was a pretty neat idea to create this podcast.
Hey, Brian, what's this?
Hey, Jeff. Well, this is the first time I've been hanging out in a jazz club for a while.
Yes. And we've been here a while.
Oh, yeah, I know. But this is the 4th issue of the IDW comic, Salmon of Doubt, the Dirk Gently Holistic Detective Agency story that we have been covering.
Yes.
Comic book by comic book.
But before we talk about the comic book, there's something that I think we should have been talking about every single time, and we've been neglecting that. And even though it's written in the description, I do want to remind people, if you want to actually see the pages we're looking at, you can go to our YouTube channel, Digital Watches Are a Pretty Neat Idea, and we will have the video with every page we're looking at as we're talking about it. So if
Right, and that's a spectacular way of watching and listening to the podcast, by the way. I've done that numerous times, and I think you do a fantastic job of coordinating that whole project.
Well, thank you. I try. Now, that said, and I'll try to remember to say it every time, and that also goes, by the way, for every comic we've done. So, the 3 Hitchhikers, the 3 Restaurant, the 3 Life the Universe, the first 2 series of Dirk Gently, even our illustrated Hitchhikers book has a video. So, there are lots of videos on our video channel. However, most of our video channel is just our logo with us talking because there's nothing to look at.
Well, looking at us for an hour and a half, that probably is pretty boring, right?
That would be pretty boring.
Oh, my goodness. I thought you were going to say that what we really needed to talk about was the shape and scale of aliens. But, hey, whatever.
Okay. I'm sorry you lost me on that one.
I know. I lost myself, too. I've got a weird obsession lately, and I can't stop thinking about it. We had a brief discussion about it when you came out here for when we went to the different conventions. But
yeah.
I've been thinking about aliens lately, and it just kind of sticks in my head.
So you think they should be deported to El Salvador?
Not those aliens. I don't think about politics very much, as you know.
All right. That out of the way.
You got it.
It looks like we're doing a change here in the comic book in issue 4.
Yeah, it's really rather strange. I mean, we've got a dark red cover that we're looking at, which is quite dramatic.
Yes. And it appears that this whole issue is going to be about a new character who's just being introduced in the comic, but we know very well from the TV show.
Right.
Which is Farrah Black.
Yeah, there's a number of shots of Farrah seeming to be exercising and preparing for her job as well, I think she was originally preparing to become a police officer. I think that's what she wanted to be, right?
That was her lifelong goal, yes.
Right. But then, of course, she just becomes a well-trained bodyguard.
Right. So they've got her in a couple of different poses. One sort of kicking, doing some sort of martial arts, and then hitting the heavy bag like some kind of a boxer, and then doing the pommel horse, which is actually a man's event in the gymnastics.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that.
The women don't do pommel horse.
Not that I'm aware of.
And then, if all else fails, you have a gun.
Right. And then on the bottom, which I think is kind of interesting, and I suspect the focus that Dirk will be doing during this entire comic book, he is inspecting the footprints of Bernice along the bottom in a little green line.
Because she is missing.
That's right.
And behind Farrah is a giant menacing figure who I can only assume is her father.
That's correct.
Yelling at her.
We didn't get introduced to her father during the television show, although it was mentioned that he was a police officer, or there's a long history in their family of police officers.
Yes, and I believe the mention came when she met her brother, who was some sort of a federal agent, who basically said, "We missed you at the funeral."
Right, exactly. Yep, you're right. You're right.
So we will check out page 1. And of course, this is the previously on. And it is almost the same in the first 4 panels.
Absolutely. Yep.
And then we get reminded of some things that happened in the last issue, which is Todd comforting Amanda after she had her pararubulitis attack and telling Todd that she hopes she can be as brave as he is. And then he talks about running into his old friend, Colonel Riggins. However, wasn't his old friend because in this, it was a dream friend.
Exactly.
So on to page 2. And again, this is a list of the cast of characters for this issue.
All the usual characters. We have Dirk, Sally, Bernice, and Reg.
Yep.
And then we have a few new ones.
Yes. We've got Farrah Black that we mentioned on the cover. Simon Black, her obsessed father. Patrick Spring, an enigmatic billionaire. Stephen Hawking is making an appearance in this comic book.
Very interesting, yes.
As well as Isaac Newton and the Goblin Peasbottom. So this will be interesting to see how they work that in.
You bet.
So we'll start the story on page 3. So here we have Farrah in a car, basically crying and driving very fast, I'm assuming, leaving Seattle.
Yes.
And she is all upset because I'm guessing it is her father, who trained her whole life, has told her she's not ready.
And her response was kind of humorous.
Yes.
And as she's speeding down the road, she's crying to herself, saying, "I'll show you ready. Ready like the Jamaican bobsled team. Ready like Ali in Zaire.
Yes.
Ready like Prince in 1999.
Right. And then she slams on the brakes at the entrance to the Webb estate, realizing she's not ready.
As the estate looms in the background with lightning flashing everywhere.
Yes. So we'll go to page 4. So we jump to I'm guessing, the home bar of Simon Blackfar's father, where he is realizing or trying to convince himself that she's not ready. He's tried and tried so hard, but she's not ready. And then they're showing a bunch of pictures on the wall, and he's watching videos of some of her martial arts contests or meets or fights or whatever they are. And there's a dossier or a file about her.
And as you said, he's sitting in what appears to be a bar and appears like he might have been drinking quite a bit.
Yes. The title of this issue is The Miseducation of Farrah Black. And she seems to be very well-rounded in her training.
That's absolutely true.
She has a lot of trophies on the bookcase behind her father. Lots of pictures on the wall. They do a close-up of a few, so you can see that she's an equestrian, so she's been trained to ride horses. And she's, like we mentioned, martial arts in this TV where she seems to be throwing someone to the ground. Lots of Olympic events or track and field events like the discus. Even swam with sharks.
Extraordinary.
In the background behind, it looks like there's someone holding a bow and arrow, so she might even be trained in archery. Okay, so we'll see what makes her not ready. We'll move to page 5. So Dirk is frantically crawling around and walking around searching for Bernice, and he's getting more and more upset. Reg has told him that he has checked with everybody, and nobody has seen the cat in any state, alive or dead. And then Reg kind of implies that maybe Dirk could use one of his psychic abilities. And Dirk gets all upset and he says things like, I cannot use my abilities. I don't know what my abilities are. There's so much I don't know about my abilities. But the one thing I do know is I can find a cat, especially Bernice. So that means Bernice isn't just missing. She isn't alive or dead or in any intermediate state. Any of that I would have a beat on. I'm going to need you to be my assistant and rescue Bernice from that or from that.
And at the bottom of the page, Reg says, I was rather afraid you might say that. It rather ties in with something else Hawking over at Physics said.
So we will move to page 6. And page 7, because it's a double page.
Indeed it is.
So Reg has brought Dirk over to the physics department to meet Dr. Hawking. Dr. Hawking tells them that earlier in the day, their instruments recorded disruptions in the space-time continuum around Greater Cambridge. And Reg was apologizing for his DVD player, and they say, no, we don't look at those anymore. This was actually over in a back alley by Trinity College, and they show Dirk and Reg a picture of the Goblin.
Peasbottom with a cat in his hand.
Yes. And so now Dirk realizes that Sally is still missing, and he has to go to one of those other timelines in his other past to try and help her, and going to need Reg to be his assistant and go after Bernice, because Dirk doesn't want to face Peasbottom. He wants to send the old man.
Bit of a chicken there, huh?
Yes. Reg says, oh, no, I don't know anything about cats, but I do know an expert on cats, and he is talking about Sir Isaac Newton, because everybody knows that Isaac Newton is most famous for understanding cat behavior.
Oh, yes. This is interesting, Jeff. This is a double page, as you said, and for some reason they decided that it would be fun to fill it full of, well, visual and ridiculous jokes.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
So let's explain some of them.
Well, for instance, of course, when Dr. Hawking is speaking to Dirk, he says, "Nice to meet you, Jerk," gently. And then, of course, Dirk says, no, it's Dirk. And Dr. Hawking apologizes and says that his synthesizer has some limitations with unusual names.
Right.
And you don't know what you're going to get sometimes. And you won't believe what he called Mr. Obama.
Right. Yeah, so I can't even make up something. Can you come up with
No, I can't think of anything, but obviously it was meant to be funny.
Yeah.
And then in another scene on the bottom right-hand panel, they're reenacting the Schrodinger's cat experiment with a box and some poisonous gas and a poor kitten about to be put into a box. There is a planetarium-type device up on the top of the screen. Can't quite figure out what that is.
Right.
What that's all about.
Well, it looks like there is a model of our solar system.
Right. Why do I always forget the name of what that actually is? There's a name for that. Do you remember?
Model of our solar system.
No, you know, it has some funny name, like not a planetarium, but I can't remember.
I can't say I've ever actually used it. I may have heard it, but I certainly would have never used it.
Right. It's called an orrery. Orrery.
Orrery.
Orrery.
Definitely have never used that term.
No, I definitely have never used that term. So,
and I am impressed with the tower of computers that they have all the way up the column of the arch going towards that orrery.
Right.
At the very beginning, when Dirk is asking Reg if this guy they're going to see can be trusted, Reg responds that Stephen Strange, certainly, but I found he's seldom wrong. And Dirk is saying, "Did you just say Stephen Strange?" Which is the full name of Doctor Strange, the Marvel superhero, I guess. So he said you're going to go see Hawking on the last page, so not going to go be seeing Stephen Strange.
Right. A little name dropping in this particular page. They wanted to make sure they get Stephen Strange, Dr. Hawking, and Isaac Newton all into one page on a comic book for some reason.
And don't forget Obama.
Oh, yeah, Obama, exactly.
So we will move on to page 8. So we're back in the apartment of Simon Black, and he is still lamenting over the fact that his daughter has all kinds of talent, but she is missing the mental component. And then behind him, he hears his toilet flush. And since he's the only one in the apartment, he grabs his gun, and he goes up to the door, and he says, "Before I go down the sinkhole, I'll take a few of you bald, tattooed freaks with me," which obviously is referencing the Men of the Machine.
Right.
And he kicks down the door, and he is looking at a drenched, soaked, soggy Dirk.
With his foot in the toilet.
With his foot in the toilet.
And Dirk says, "Hello, scary gun-wielding American person. My hands are up."
And he says that in all one word.
Yep.
That isn't a whole bunch of words.
No, that's one word.
Yes.
And then he goes on to say, "You haven't seen Nurse Sally Mills, have you?" And finally he asked, not to put too fine a point on it here, but are you quite certain you're the one who should be throwing around allegations of baldness?
Right. Because Simon is very bald.
Right. But that's the one thing I would say here, that you and I understand the reference immediately, because, of course, we have had the experience of having watched the television show.
Right.
And I suppose they could assume that the audience for this comic book would also have that, but why would he know anything about the Men of the Machine? He wasn't in the original story. He had no interactions with them that we know of.
No.
So why would he already have an assumption that they're coming to get him?
Well, there's that's one thing. But because it is an alternate timeline, they really have free reign to do anything they want.
Yeah, I guess that's absolutely true. And of course, the beginning here, we're seeing Farah go up to the Webb estate for the first time. So as far as I know, she would be interacting with the Men in the Machine for the first time. After she got back.
Right. And Dirk saying, "Hello, scary gun-wielding American person, my hands are up." That to me sounds exactly like the Dirk from the TV show would say, which is the Dirk that should be in this timeline that he just jumped into.
Right.
So is he becoming that Dirk? Or will we meet him and is he going to have a face-to-face with himself?
I don't know. We're going to find out, I assume, on the next page.
Page 9. On this page, it starts out with a close-up of a hand scratching a cat's head and the cat purring. And then there's some sort of crystal being put into some sort of a stand. And Reg comes in asking for Isaac Newton, calling for him. And then it says, "The study of Isaac Newton, Trinity College, Cambridge, 1667. And Isaac Newton pulls back the curtain, and the light beam hits the prism, and out comes a rainbow of color, which impresses Reg. And he applauds.
And Reg, of course, is calling him Izzy.
Right.
Which I thought was kind of fun. And as you said, he is delighted by the results of the prism. And then he says, "Would you have a minute to talk about cats?"
And seems to confuse Isaac Newton. Though he does have a lot of cats.
Right, exactly.
I mean, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the big picture. Possibly 6 up on the top of the bookshelf behind the text. So it's hard to tell if that's
Looks
one,
like one
there.
Yep.
And it's kind of funny because, of course, Isaac Newton discovered gravity. And so there's an apple on the floor. So he ate the apple after it fell on his head. There's a wig on a globe. Well, it does appear that the prismatic crystal is in some sort of adjustable candle stand. So we will move to page 10 and 11.
Oh my goodness. Talk about your cats.
Yes. So here, Reg is talking with Isaac Newton, and what he is trying to figure out is if Isaac Newton, the inventor of the cat flap, a door within a door, can install something like that in Reg's time machine, so Bernice basically can make her way back to where she belongs without Reg actually having to go get her. At first, Isaac Newton doesn't really seem he wants to be very helpful, but when he realizes that the cat is gone, because he does like cats, he does want to help to try and save the cat. But now I have an issue with this comic, and maybe you can give me a way of thinking about it that it doesn't upset me so much and then I can just get by it.
Okay.
Because I don't know if you have the same problem that I do. But my problem is, in the book, Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, he mentions Isaac Newton being most known for being the inventor of the cat flap.
Correct.
Which was total 100% bullshit. We are now seeing the real Isaac Newton claiming he is the inventor of the cat flap. Dirk makes up crap all the time to make himself sound smarter than he is. And now one of his lines of bullshit is being presented as if it is real.
Well, the story is that after Isaac Newton's death, when they inspected his office, there was in fact a hole drilled through the wall designed for the cat to pass through and in and out of his office at their leisure. They're not claiming that he invented the concept, but he did have a cat flap in his office in Cambridge. That is in fact true.
Which I didn't know. And why didn't we talk about that when we talked about the book?
I don't know.
When this was first brought up.
I don't know.
I certainly didn't talk about it because to me it was complete bullshit.
Well,
so you're withholding information.
Right. And the funny thing is here, of course, what we're supposed to get out of this is that Reg doesn't tell Isaac Newton all the things that Isaac Newton is known for, and Isaac's concern is that the only thing he'll ever be known for is his cat flap. And Reg almost confirms that that's true.
Well, yeah, according to Dirk it is.
Right.
However, not according to me, because I had no idea.
Yes. So, it's a coincidental situation. He did, in fact, have workmen drill a hole in his office wall.
So the cat could go through.
Mm-hmm. Because supposedly he was upset about it scratching in his door and having to get up and be interrupted frequently.
Right. But without a flap.
Yes, just a hole.
Yeah, that's a hole.
Mm-hmm.
That's a port.
Mm-hmm.
Ports have existed, and holes and stuff have existed forever. Unless he put a flap on it.
They didn't say whether it had a flap or not. They simply say it's a hole.
Okay. So, for those of you who didn't know that 20 of our podcast episodes ago or whatever, here you found out.
Oh, I love it.
All right, so we will move to page 12. So on this page, we are in Simon Black's shitty apartment, downtown Seattle.
I'm glad they described it that way specifically for you.
Yes. So Dirk is saying that he's a little underwhelmed on the hospitality. He expected a little bit more. He's heard better things about American hospitality. And Simon Black is believing that he is part of the Men of the Machine, and he's coming through the toilet all the way from England, so it's worse than Patrick ever feared. And then he says Farah isn't ready for this. And Dirk asks, Farah? Farah who? And then he looks at all the pictures on the wall, and he sees all of the awards, and he's talking about the family resemblance and a chip off the old block, and that she's equally an expert in fisticuffs and firearms. And then he gets slammed against the wall by Simon, and Simon yells at him. So this comic was published in 2017. And I'm glad it wasn't published in 2022, or this last panel would say something different.
Okay.
So what does it say? And then I'll tell you what it would say.
Okay. As Simon is slamming Dirk into the wall, Simon says, "You don't get to say her name. You don't even get to look at her." And wham! And oof!
And if it was 2022, he would be saying, "Keep my daughter's name out of your effing mouth."
Yeah.
So we will go to page 13. So now we've gone back all the way to the beginning of the book, where Farah has arrived at the Webb estate. And she's a little bit weirded out because she's going back to a place that used to be her home, but now is just her office. And she's remembering training with her father and playing ball with little Lydia and riding Peppy the rhinoceros with little Lydia.
What? Peppy the rhinoceros?
Peppy the rhinoceros, yes, of course.
Okay. I don't recall any Peppy, but... Oh, I guess they had to slip it in there, because rhinos are a big thing, right?
Yes. And Douglas was all about their conservation, so the best thing to do is to bring one to your house and ride it like a horse.
Absolutely.
So we'll go to page 14. So this is a page pretty much with no text, or definitely really very, very, very little text or dialogue. So I'm going to do my best to describe the top of the 5 panels. So there's 3 horizontal panels and then a double panel on the bottom. So we're just going to describe these to the best of our ability.
Right.
With the context that we have.
Right.
So Farah has walked in the door and everything is blue in her world, and all of her remembering imaginings we'll call golden.
Right. Like ghosts.
Yes. She's looking at and remembering Patrick Spring and his wife watching her running down the hall playing with who I have to believe is Lydia Spring, but resembles an awful lot the crazy girl Kimberly from a previous issue.
Yeah, it's very strange that they should look so similar. But clearly not the same character.
Right.
Then on the second panel, we see Simon very upset and crying, while Patrick Spring is very angry. And you see in the background the contemporary Farah climbing the stairs.
And then as Farah reaches the top of the stairs, she appears to be looking again at herself, younger than the version of herself that she saw running and playing with Lydia. And here she is looking scared, holding a baby, which I can only assume is Lydia.
That's correct. The final 2 panels have the only words on this page. Farah knocks on the door, and the word "come" is shouted through the door. She reaches for the handle and asks herself, "Am I ready?"
Right. So we'll find out if she's ready on page 15. So this is an interesting page with a couple of insets and panels and jagged edges, which all fits very well because Simon, Farah's father, has basically come unhinged.
He has indeed.
He's still convinced that Dirk is one of the men of the machine, and he is swearing that he will not take Farah from him the way they took Catherine from him and Patrick all those years ago. And Dirk is still pleading his case, saying, nope, not one of them. I'm a detective looking for my friend Sally. Came through the toilet. She's got to be around here somewhere.
The bottom 2 panels seem to be setting us up for something.
Yes.
Because on the top panel, Dirk says, "So, about those DUIs one hears so much about in American gossip and the press."
Yes.
And then, of course, Simon looks back and says, "I know what you do. You get into people's heads. You make them not themselves. Well, you're not going to get into my ...
So I'm guessing there's going to be a great big word on the next page.
No, I think there's going to be a great big something on the next page.
Okay. So we'll check on page 16. I guess he didn't get to finish his sentence.
The tree finished it for him.
So the car has slammed into a tree about 4 feet up. And is completely obliterated. So I guess it's good that it was a convertible, because Dirk and Simon just went flying out of it.
Dirk ends up hanging upside down in a tree because of the ropes that were wrapped around him.
Yes.
Have tangled around his foot. And poor Simon is on the ground lamenting the decisions that he has made.
Absolutely. And Dirk is saying that, what if I could get Farah some backup? I could get her someone, an ally, whose particular specialty is intractable problems and supernatural opponents.
Who are you going to call? Thor?
Oh, no. Well, he wasn't in the persona page.
No, he wasn't.
And Simon asks, like both of us did, who?
Is that him? Himself? The intractable? The ineffable?
The ineffable, yes.
Oh my gosh.
So, page 17. So we're back in the in-between with all of the televisions, and Sally is basically telling the hi-fi that she doesn't want to play anymore.
Oh, and the hi-fi responds, "We are taking you there, Mills, Sally Mills. But just because you might not end up where you wanted to go...
doesn't mean that I won't end up where I needed to be." Yeah, I've heard that one before. So she picks one. And which one does she pick?
One with Dirk in the back of the convertible, all tied up and ready to scream.
Good choice, Sally Mills. Of all the screens she could have picked, that's the one she did. But it's the one that had the Dirk she recognized.
Right. That's true.
So we will go to page 18. So Farah has entered Patrick Spring's office, and he is basically explaining that her dad failed, his wife died, Lydia is important. If it comes between me and Lydia, protect Lydia. Which is all pretty good. The part that I find interesting is that he says right out loud, there's things I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to keep you ignorant because I want your reactions to be real. You kind of do that just by not telling her things. Right. Don't tell her there are things you're not going to tell her.
That I'm not going to tell you. Yep. I do like this page. Again, it does have quite a dramatic flair to it. We're looking through a window, and you can see the curtains on either side. And that frames Patrick and Farah, and there's a couple of inserts that are close-ups of Patrick's face as he's concentrating, and Farah as Patrick finally asks you, "But I have to know, Farah, are you ready?"
And Farah says, "I'm ready." So I'm really not sure what it was about that pep talk he gave her about all the information he's not going to say that convinced her that she was ready. But she is convinced, and her face looks like she is convinced.
Correct.
So, page 19.
I think I figured it out, Jeff.
Oh, good. Explain it to me.
All right. Well, the explanation isn't going to be on this page, but this page has 6 panels. We see 3 of which at the very top, of course, are Mills, Sally Mills.
Yes.
Falling through an electric sky into a tree where she says, "Oh man, a tree again? Okay, hi-fi person, you can do better than that."
Right. And then she sees Simon laying on the ground.
And she goes over to Simon, and we hear in the background the police cars, wee-oo, wee-oo, wee-oo.
Yes.
And she says to Simon, "It's okay, I'm a nurse, and hang in there, emergency services will be here soon."
And then Simon is saying, he said he'd get help.
And Sally says, "Who?"
And he says, "Dirk Gently. He's going to get Farah back up." So you know what's coming?
Yes. I have a feeling I do.
All right. So we'll see what it is on page 20.
Yes.
Okay, Brian, were you right?
I think I was right. Because who else would Dirk gently trust with such sensitive information but
himself in a yellow jacket?
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So now you have our Dirk Gently from the comic books is making a phone call. And he calls and speaks to the one person he knows who can help him out. And that's himself.
Correct. So it was a very interesting phone call. And I do like the way that he did this.
Mm-hmm.
He just randomly calls up the Dirk Gently in England on that timeline. And he says, here's the thing. You need to come to America and find a woman named Farrah Black. She works for someone called Patrick Spring. She needs your help. It's a case, and I fancy something of a doozy. Who am I? The odd thing about being a private detective, you spend all your time finding out little things about other people that nobody else knows, but then you discover that there are all sorts of things that other people know about you, which you don't. This is one of those things.
And then this timeline, Dirk responds, that's exactly like the sort of thing I would say. America, time to go back to America. Okay, then. Home again, jiggity jig.
And to be continued.
That's the last picture on this page.
Yes, and Dirk in his yellow jacket is in his office with the murder board type of thing behind him with all of the red string going across different clues.
And of course, he's drinking a cup of tea.
Yes, he is. And none of the clues in the background have any references or anything. They're just blank.
Yep, blank pieces of paper, it looks like.
Well, that was quite an interesting episode. A little bit different than following the timeline we were on. It's taking another fork.
It is. It is indeed taking another fork. A little light on content, I would say, overall. But interesting, you know?
Yes. Yes.
So we don't know too much about Peasbottom. We do know that Isaac Newton had a cat door.
Right. Yes.
And we're about to be jiggity jigged all the way back to America.
I guess we are.
Well, now that we've reached the end of this comic, Jeff, what's next?
Well, obviously what's next is going to be issue 5 of Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, The Salmon of Doubt. So, we will see you again this month for one of our 2 bonus episodes.
Excellent. Excellent indeed.
And now that we've got all of that out of the way, I guess I'm going to say this is the end. Thank you for listening to this. A new episode is released on the first Thursday of every month. Visit our website at digitalwatchesareaprettyneatidea.buzzsprout.com. While there, you can find links to all of my Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy inspired t-shirt designs. You can contact us via email at digitalwatchespodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on YouTube and Facebook at Digital Watches Are a Pretty Neat Idea. You can message us on Twitter, or should I say X, at Watches Idea, and our Instagram is Watches Idea Podcast.
This has been a Fruits for Thought production, darling. This has been a Fruits for Thought production, darling. This has been a Fruits for Thought production, darling. This has been a Fruits for Thought production, darling. This has been a Fruits for Thought production.